Welcome to Dean's Den, and today we have a very special guest. Yvan Lacroix has dropped in to share some information with us, and I'll start things off. Yvan, for those people out there that don't know anything about the IDA, what quick information can you give us on the International Detailers Association?
Well, the International Detailers Association was started at MTE many years ago, and it was started by detailers for detailers. The whole goal of the IDA is educational. So teaching detailers not only detailing skills, but business skills as well, and holding them accountable to what they're doing, how they're doing it, customer service, things like that.
Since you mentioned that, I just like to take this opportunity to thank you very much for everything you've done, because it's so important that people like you take their time and share information with us and help us get better so that we can not only make more money, but be better at servicing our customers.
Well, thank you. It's been my long time passion to convert detailers into entrepreneurs. And it's something that a lot of people become an entrepreneur kicking and screaming all along the way, but eventually they make it, and they realize that this is a customer service industry. It is not, if you're doing this as a hobby, great. Enjoy yourself, take as much time as you want. Do one car every 3 weeks, it doesn't matter. But if you're doing this to make your living, you have to adhere to certain business principles, not only in profitability, things like that, but you also need to look at customer service. And customer service is something that unfortunately a lot of detailers skip over, or they think their way is so great that, or they think they're so great that they don't have to go out of their way to serve their customers properly.
Yeah, a lot of people, they don't have a safety net, so they'll go at it alone, and they have nobody to reach out to. One of the things I always tell everybody, Yvan, is to please reach out to other groups, reach out to YouTube, learn as much as you possibly can before you even consider becoming a detailer, because it's so important to have that in your arsenal before you even decide to take that step.
Oh, definitely. There's a lot of educational resources out there, like you said, YouTube, Facebook groups, podcasts like this one. And they're all there to help. And there's no bad education. It's what you take away from it. And, there are some training courses that are designed to push product, we'll say, and that's fine. But even if you take those courses, you will come away with new skills. You will come away with a new perspective. You may not use the products that were pushed onto you at that training, but that's fine. There's a lot to learn out there, and always be striving to learn more. I've been in the industry 40 years now, and I'm still learning every day.
I got to the 25-year point, and then I reached out to YouTube, and I got a wealth of knowledge. I totally upped my game. I don't know if I've ever had this conversation with you or not, but I actually received the Consumer Choice Award for 2020.
Excellent.
So that was one thing that I was able to accomplish. But you know what, Yvan, I didn't do it alone. And that's something I want to convey to everybody that's listening to this podcast. The reason I did that was because I went out, I reached out, I learned from Yvan, I learned from other detailing icons that are out there. I learned the right way. I learned the things that I was missing in my service to better my service. I worked on my business skills and my marketing skills, and that's what got me recognized. So it is very important that you reach out to people that actually know what they're doing and learn from them.
Yeah, there's a lot of free knowledge out there. I'm always, when I'm doing my business coaching, always harping on people that free is a, 4-letter swear word. And when you own a business, it is. But when it comes to education, get as much education as you can. And it doesn't matter where you get it. And, people are intelligent enough to, as I said before, take what they need from that source and leave off what they don't need. And I'm a little abrasive sometimes in my approach. And some people have questioned me on that, and that's fine. I do it the way I do it. I try to get the point across. My point isn't always well taken. My point isn't always liked, because it sometimes goes against the established norm. But, I'm sharing this information not for my benefit, but for everybody else's benefit.
Yeah, Yvan, I consider you like the father of detailing, because sometimes you give advice that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear it. And I do appreciate your honesty, because honestly, some of the very best teachers I've had in all my life were the toughest, and they just told it like it was. And sometimes you really need to hear that, or else you're going to fail.
Yeah. And, when I was in grade school, I learned that lesson quite well. I believe it was grade 5. We went into the classroom, and this teacher was reputable, had the reputation of being mean and nasty and, very pushy and not offensive, but it's his way or it's no way.
Yeah.
And that was my best year in school. After you got over the initial shock of it, after that, it was respect, but going both ways. That teacher respected his students as much as his students respected him.
Yeah, with that being said, I was wondering, as we move forward with COVID, once it gets safe for us to have gatherings again, what would be the easiest way for us to find you to get IDA training?
Well, actually, the IDA, I know this is a podcast and it'll be on the internet forever, but most people listen to it, at its original broadcast, we'll put it that way. The
Okay.
IDA, the week of June 21st, is actually putting on a worldwide skills validation event. And
Okay.
every registered trainer in the IDA is putting on local training sessions. So myself, I'm in Granby, Quebec. I'll be doing the SV training and certification, or the testing, I should say, not the training, but the testing will be happening worldwide. So every registered trainer with the IDA, the week of June 21st, is setting up clinics local to them, meaning someone that's in Quebec or wants to drive to Quebec. I'm an hour east of Montreal. Anybody that wants to drive here for that week, I'll be doing testing all that week, and all the other registered trainers will be doing the same. So if you want a training class with me, I right now in Canada, we can travel a little bit, not much, because of COVID.
Okay.
I know you're in Ontario and everything is pretty much shut down there. I'm in Quebec. They're reopening things tomorrow, but not everything. And groups of 5 are frowned upon. So for now, it's internet coaching, telephone coaching, one-on-one training. But eventually I'll get back to my group trainings where it's traditionally I had groups between 10 and 20 people at a training session, and I'm not alone. When I do a training session, my wife, who also has 40 years experience in the industry, she's a much better detailer than I'll ever be, and she's a great communicator as well, even though her English is not the greatest, but she gets her points across, and she lets me do the talking in the class, but a lot of the hands-on is her. So Sylvie is definitely part of the training and part of what I do. And so that's how we can handle 10 or 20 people in a training class, even though there's just the 2 of us.
I was going to say I had no idea until I clicked on your video how handy you were, and I saw you working on your bus. I've seen your other videos. Like I clicked on them a little bit, and I saw that you were getting worked on the bus, but I didn't realize that you were actually the one doing all the work.
I grew up with a father that had very colorful language, but one of his mantras was, "You don't know you can't do it until you fucked it up."
Oh yeah.
And I took that to heart. I've been able to do a lot of things in life because of that. It's not having the fear of failing, and failure is part of it sometimes. And that's just part of life. If you're not failing, you're not trying. And I've had failed businesses, I've had failed marriages. There have been failures, but if you learn from your failure and move forward and use that as education, then there's nothing wrong with failing. And a lot of people are so afraid of getting into business or becoming an entrepreneur because of that fear of failing. It's like, well, I'm working in a factory and making a good wage, and what's going to happen if I start my business? And when we started our franchise operation, that was something I noticed between people in Quebec and people in Ontario, because we had a franchise in Ontario, we had franchises in Quebec. And most of the people that called us from Ontario had more of an American thought process, whereas the people in Quebec have more of a European thought process, or at least the French-speaking ones.
Yeah.
The people in Quebec, their question was, why should I buy this franchise? Or why should I start a business? And the people in Ontario, their question is, why wouldn't I buy this franchise? So it's a very different approach on how to look at things. I used to work for a large corporation. I used to live in Guelph, Ontario. And when I was working for that large corporation, I got transferred to Montreal. And it was a culture shock for me, business-wise. I speak both languages fluently, so that's not a problem. The business culture in Quebec, and this was in the early 90s, was very different than in Ontario. In Ontario, people live to work, whereas in Quebec, people, generally speaking, work to live. So it's a very different way of looking at things. When you go into detailing groups on Facebook and stuff, the people that are doing the grind and working 80 hours a week and stuff are venerated, are looked up to. And in Quebec, it's the other way around. It's like, what the hell are you doing to yourself? You need balance in life. Again, my father's colorful language. I was always taught, growing up, that there's 24 hours in a day. You need 8 hours to work, 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours to spend with your family, and 8 hours to make love. The first one being the least important. The work aspect of it is the least important. When I had my shops, they opened at 8 o'clock in the morning. They closed at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I never had an employee show up before 10 to 8 in the morning. And at 5:05, I was locking the door. I wanted them out of there. Overtime was something that didn't exist. If you can't schedule yourself properly, or if you have too much work for the number of people you have, hire more people. There's absolutely no need to work more than 40 hours a week. If you look at the European model, a lot of places are 30 and 35 hours a week. So at 40 hours a week, we're going over and above. But as far as I'm concerned, there's no real need or desire to work more than that. And if your business can't provide for you in that amount of time, so 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and you're having to work 7 days a week, or you're having to work 12 hours a day, reevaluate your business and look at your business and what are you doing wrong? Because to me, you're doing something wrong if that is how you have to run your life.
Yeah, most of the people I reach out to, their main problem is they're not charging enough.
Oh, definitely. They're afraid to charge, and done trainings all over the world. And everybody has the same, I don't care where you are, what country you're in, poor country or rich country, the people here can't afford detailing. Wait a minute, back up. I did a training once and there wasn't a car in the driveway. So I had 50 students at this training class. It was one of my larger ones. I don't think there was a car in the driveway worth more than 10,000 euros. It was in Europe.
Okay.
But on the other hand, I asked a number of detailers when we were doing our business discussion portion of the training, what's the last 5 cars you worked on? And terms like BMW, Rolls-Royce, Lamborghini, Ferrari came up. And often, they weren't working on Fiats. They weren't working on Skodas. They weren't working on Volkswagens. They were working on high-end cars. And it's like, okay, but you're telling me your customers can't afford detailing at the prices I'm telling you to charge. They can afford those cars. And in your country, because of taxes, those cars are extremely expensive. So your customers can afford those cars. And what do all your customers, or generally, most of your customers have in common? And I don't know what they have. They're business owners. Most of them are entrepreneurs. So the people that are bringing you these high dollar cars are entrepreneurs. You're an entrepreneur. Why are you not driving the same cars that they are? When I had my shop, my employees, I started people off at $20 an hour, and my goal was to pay $30. And the reason I was doing that is if you provide someone a career as opposed to providing them a job, they're going to do so much better, and they're going to stay with you, and they're going to work better, and they're going to do all sorts of things. Now, not everybody is cut out to have a career, but those that were cut out to have a career, we fostered them, helped, grew them with us, so they did have a career. And having someone that is career-minded is exceptional. A $20 an hour employee gives you so much more than 2 $10 an hour employees. And again, people would ask, well, how can you pay your employees $30 an hour when you're only charging me $50? Well, first of all, we're not charging you $50. We're efficient. And the reason people thought we were charging them $50 an hour, one of our main services that we did was a wash, clay, and wax. So wash the car, clay it, and wax it. I had one employee that would do 3 an hour by himself, not rushing, just nice leisurely pace, but he would do 3 an hour at $100 each. So that's $300 an hour. I didn't mind paying him $30 an hour plus bonus. But the detailing shop up the street, been in business for 30 years, did a great job. To him, a wash, clay, and wax, because of his inefficiencies, was a 2-hour job. And he also charged $99. So for him, $50 an hour was good. And he tried to, headhunt some of my employees. And one of my employees took it on as a joke more than anything else and said, hey, he's giving me a free lunch. I'm going for lunch with him. He told me, my employee told me he was going to lunch with him. And, because he was offering him a job. So I had no qualms about my employee leaving me. I know how much the other guy pays per hour. So he wouldn't have taken a $20 an hour pay cut. But when my employee explained to the other guy that, yeah, well, I'm making $30 an hour plus bonus, working, 40 hours a week. So, and the other business owner was, well, how can he afford to pay you that? He doesn't charge any more than we do.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. But he's developed efficiencies that you haven't. And my employee suggested my competitor take one of my training classes. Never happened for some reason. But his ego was too strong for that. I encourage detailers. Whereabouts are you located, Dean?
I'm located in Tecumseh, Ontario, right near Windsor,
Okay.
right across from Detroit.
No, I know exactly where it is. So
Okay.
in your area, you've got a couple really good detailers. Beside yourself, you've got Excelsior Detailer, you've got Piskey's that I know.
Yeah.
I know both of them quite well, and they're both good detailers, and
Yeah.
actually they're both good business people as well. But in an area like that, it's great if you were to get together with them and every other detailer in your area. So, in that whole metropolitan area, have a lunch one day and get to know
Yeah.
each other.
Andrew actually learned from me.
Oh, excellent. So,
Andrew St-Pierre
uh,
was my student, and him and I trade work back and forth all the time. Luke is a very good detailer,
yep.
and he works on a lot of super high end stuff.
Yeah. And Luke, he knows his niche in the business. He doesn't want employees. He doesn't want to grow. He's doing
Yeah.
well. He works, he doesn't overwork. He does his 35, 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
His shop, which is based at his home, he's mobile, but he also has a shop. His shop is
Hmm.
spectacular if you've ever seen it. It's just a
Like, I've never
beautiful
seen his
layout.
shop. Yeah.
It's just a beautiful layout for a one-person operation, and that's all he wants to be. But he's doing it
Yeah.
very well. He's got great income. He's got great customer service, and he doesn't want to grow. A lot of
Yeah. I've
people
seen his
have
work. It's good.
yeah, exactly. But coming back to our original point here, before
Hmm.
taking a tour of your area, uh, taking a
Yeah.
tour of Essex County, if detailers in an area get together and realize that, wait a minute, we're competing together, we're not competing against each other. And when they do that, a lot of magical things happen. First of all, if let's say the three people we mentioned, you, Andrew, and Luke, are sitting at a
Yeah.
table, and you say, "Well, for my top level coating, I'm charging $1,800,"
Yeah.
and one of the other guys is charging $1,500, and the other one's charging $1,100. But
Hmm.
you're saying, "Well, hey, I'm doing more coatings than you guys are. What's going
Yeah.
on?" They're going to raise their prices because they realize that, hey, customers are willing to pay that.
Yeah.
Part of my business was a car wash, and in the car wash industry, it's very different than the detailing industry. Egos don't exist. Car wash owners talk to each other. Car wash owners share tips, share tricks. I'm in Granby, Quebec, small town. The 10 car washes that are in town, we would get together once a month and talk business and see what's going on and things like that. But if one person was going to have a sale, they would announce it to the group before putting the sale on. That way, oh, you're putting a sale on the first week of June, perfect. Nobody else would put a sale on that week. Why compete
Yeah.
against each other when you can compete together? And
Yeah.
there was that mutual respect of, look, he's putting a sale on that week. It's pointless for me to run a sale that week against him. It's just going to hurt both
Hmm.
of us. And
Yeah.
so that was a very good point. And it's something I stress to detailers when I do an on-site training. Normally there's 4, 5, 10, whatever detailers from the same area that are close to each other, and I encourage them to, after the training, stay in touch, get to know each other, and like you and Andrew do, trade work.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're too busy to do the job when the customer needs it, perfect, send it to someone else. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of value in that for you as a business owner, but also for your customers, it's exceptional value to be able to share and say, look, I completely trust this other business owner. He's going to do a wonderful job for you. I can't do it at the moment, or whatever. I'm going on
Yeah.
holidays for the next 3 weeks. I'll be closed. So,
Yeah.
and that's another thing. When we're taking holidays and stuff in Quebec, everything shuts down the last 2 weeks of July. It's called the construction holidays. You might as well not be open. It's dead. Everybody's on vacation. They're not worried about detailing their cars. They're not doing anything. So we would shut down those 2 weeks as well to give our employees a break. If the other people knew that I was shutting down, well, I would still answer the phone during that time when I was able to, or at least return calls. And I'd say, look, we're closed, but he's open, and he's open. So you can go there. And if it can
Yeah.
wait, we'll schedule for when you come back. But and a lot of, most of our good customers realize that, oh yeah, that's right, it's holiday time. Never mind, shouldn't have called you. And then,
Yeah, we try and work together as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
I always tell the guys, like I tell everybody in the groups in that, like in my area, there's 300,000 vehicles and there's 30 detailers that are advertising.
Yeah.
So that's 10,000 per person. And the only reason if a shop isn't busy, then it's not that there's not enough cars. It's that the quality of the work isn't there, or that we're not putting out the information to all the customers so we can get more business.
Exactly. And it's, again, you mentioned pricing before, and a
Yeah.
lot of detailers, unfortunately, when they see that, instead of increasing their quality and increasing the quality of their advertising, they just lower the prices. And
Yeah.
they don't get more work because of it. They get less work. Case in point, we did a lot of dealership detailing, and for a basic dealership detail, we charged $150. Our closest competitor charged $89. So
Yeah.
he was at 89, we were at 150. Bit of a price difference there.
I was going to say 30 years ago, I charged 120.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
and for us, $150, it was about an hour and a half job. So, we're in our over $100 an hour range. So that was good.
Mm-hmm.
But he dropped his price to $79, announced it to all the dealerships, and he lost work because of it. He didn't gain more work. He lost work because the dealerships were saying, he's doing a shitty job at 89. He's going to do even worse at 79. When you look at pricing, if you're just starting your detailing business, look at your competitors. What are they charging? And you can see the shops that are, if you're, interested in the industry, who's doing well, who isn't doing well, and look at the ones that are doing well. Normally, they're not the ones at the lowest pricing.
Yeah.
They're the ones at the highest price, or, in the top echelon of pricing, because they're profitable. And when you're profitable, you can serve your customers properly. And when you serve your customers properly, they don't mind paying you. A lot of detailers, when it comes to dealership detailing, they have a preconceived notion that dealerships are cheap and they don't want quality, and they're just after the lowest price.
Mm-hmm.
I've always found it to be opposite of that. Dealers want two of three things. The three things are price, quality, and service. Give them quality and service, they don't care about the price. But if you don't give them great service and you don't give them great quality, then they're going to care about the price. Case in point, my competitor that dropped his price by $10, he was only getting the cars going to auction. They wouldn't give him a retail car unless they were really, really in a bad position, because they knew that at $79, there was no way he could do a good job and be profitable and be in business. Every spring, there would be someone going around to the dealership saying, "Oh, I'm just starting my new detailing business. I'll do a full correction on the car and this, that, and the other thing. And how much are you willing to pay me?" Dealerships, they're not stupid. They'll say, "Oh yeah, we pay $75 for that." Some guy would, for $75, do an interior, do the engine bay, polish the car, wax the car, and bring it back to the dealership. He might last a month, he might last 2 months, but for that 1 or 2 months, the dealership was saving $75 a detail. And for us, we didn't mind losing the dealerships in the summer, because that's when our retail aspect of our business picked up. If the dealerships slowed down in the summer because they went to someone else, we were happy. And I would always say to them, "Look, we'll see you in the fall."
When Andrew first approached me and asked me to teach him, I was shocked because that had never happened before.
Yeah.
But I was thankful that I taught him, because basically what I taught him, Ivan, was all the mistakes I had ever made.
Exactly.
And then I gave him my solutions to all my problems. And that way, when he started off, he did really well. He went from not even being known here to being number 4 in this area within 3 months.
Excellent.
During the pandemic. He's a very good detailer. I mean, he's got all the right qualities, because he's very passionate, he's very precise, and he really cares about what he's doing. It shows in his work.
it shows in his work, shows in his attitude,
Yeah.
and he's always striving to learn more. And he's uh, learning not only the detailing aspects but the business aspects as well.
Yeah, he's very bright. I've learned a lot from him, from teaching.
Oh,
Well,
definitely.
when I was teaching him, I was surprised how much I learned, because some of the things, because I would ask him every week, okay, what do you want to learn next week? And he would say, well, I want to learn about compounding. I said, okay, no problem. I've been doing it 30 years. I still went on YouTube and watched legitimate detailers to see if there's anything new that I needed to pass on to Andrew, because our industry is changing so fast. I wanted to make sure that I'm still teaching him current information.
Correct. Yeah. And yes, our industry is evolving at an extremely rapid pace.
Yeah.
The internet has done a lot of great things for our industry. It's done a few bad things, but in general, it's
Yeah.
been a great influence on our industry because it allows education to flow freely. And when we started detailing, you as well,
Yeah.
our only resource was the truck that came around delivering us products.
Oh yeah.
That was our education. That was our catalog. That was everything to us. And then forums came to be popular, and after forums, Facebook took off
Yeah.
for the
It's
detailing aspect of things. But
yeah.
the old Delphi forums and things like that, that was our education. That's where we got everything we knew about detailing, came off that truck. And depending on who you had as a rep, either you were really good or you sucked.
Yeah.
But
That's true.
right. And it was also representative of the area that you're in as well, because my first detailing business was in Guelph, Ontario. So
Okay.
that's where I lived at the time. And there wasn't much going on. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I looked at detailing as a very good business proposition. Yes, I'm a car guy. I've collected cars, I've had tons of cars. But on the other hand, feeding my passion as a car guy, but also feeding my passion of feeding my family, I looked at
Yeah.
detailing as a very viable business. And, in the early 80s in Guelph, there wasn't much going on detailing wise. And it was the car washes that had a bay beside them to do detailing. The idea of polishing paint and paint correction was very unheard of and novel at that time. The supply truck that was going around Guelph, Guelph, Kitchener, the whole Golden Triangle area, he was amazed by me in the sense of all my other customers, all they're after is, what's the least expensive product you've got? And my question
Hmm.
to him is, what's the best product you've got? That, like you say, teaching gives you as much of an education as the student gets, or you should learn as much from teaching someone as they learn from you. And it's always been the case with me. And I've been teaching detailing for 30 years. Every time, from every class, whether it's one-on-one or a group of 50, I always learn. And every day is a
Yeah.
learning experience.
I picked up my first DA polisher 5 years ago, and I was so nervous using it because I was taught by a professional painter 30 years ago how to polish
Mm-hmm.
with a rotary.
Yep, yep.
And he was adamant. He told me most colors 1500 RPM max, black 1200 max. And then he showed me how
Mm-hmm.
to go nice and slow over the paint. That's just the style that he taught me.
Yeah.
And when I went to use the DA polisher, and I couldn't believe that you have to run it at 3,000, 4,000 RPM. It just seemed really weird. It took me a while to get used to it. I did a lot of test panels before I ever touched a car with it, but I got used to it, and I really like it for finishing. I think it's a fantastic tool for certain things.
Yeah. For me, anybody listening, a little trivia thing here. The first DA, or the first Porter Cable DA, the first car ever polished with it was a 1978 Volvo DL in Carlsbad Gold, my car. At
Okay.
the time, I was working
Oh,
in
okay.
research and development at Delta Porter Cable in Guelph, and
Okay.
they came up with the 7336 sander. Well, the prototype of it. It was a
Okay.
6-inch dual action sander. I brought the
Yeah.
prototype home, glued a foam pad that I had, glued it onto the backing plate because it wasn't Velcro,
Yeah.
and polished my Volvo, and thought, wow, this will be a great tool for the consumer. Never thinking a professional would ever pick up a dual action machine,
Yeah.
because like you, I learned on the rotary. And so the next Monday, I bring it into work, talk to the head product development guy, and say, look, I think we've got a really good tool in our hands for the consumer to
Hmm.
polish with. And he says, well, we're not, we're a woodworking company. We don't do automotive. I said, well, I think we can with this, particular tool. And I said, why don't we go out and polish the hood of your car? He's like, well, I've never polished before. I said, that's the point. You've never polished before. You'll be able to pick
Yeah.
this tool up and do a good job. And it was this was 1989. He had just bought a brand new Miata, the blue Miata, and
Okay.
he polished the hood of his car. He was amazed at the result. It looked good, no swirl marks, anything like that, obviously. And that's when the 7424 was born. But after that, I never owned a Porter Cable DA, and I never picked up a DA until the Rupes came out. And I saw them at SEMA, liked the idea of it. I became the Canadian distributor when they first came to North America and helped them grow in Canada. But what attracted me to the Rupes and the long stroke DAs was not their finishing ability, but their cutting ability. With the proper pad and liquid combination, they actually cut faster than a rotary, and much faster. So from an efficiency standpoint, I'm a little different than most people. I cut with a DA and I finish with a rotary, because the finish you get with a rotary cannot be equaled by a DA. The term micromarring didn't exist before we had DAs, and micromarring is because of that dual action. So with a rotary, your abrasive is always moving in the same direction with a rotary. That being said, unless you're doing a pure black car, you'll rarely see the difference between the two. And your customer will definitely never see the difference. As detailers, we stress over so few little minute points that the customer will never ever see. And some detailers, they'll polish a car for 20 hours. Had they stopped at the 2-hour point, customer would never see the difference. The customer, between one pass with a mild polish, a left, right, up, down, left, right, wipe it off, and spending 6 hours on a panel, they don't see the difference. And as a detailer, the detailer aspect, not the entrepreneur aspect, but the detailer is always striving for perfection and is always striving to make the paint look as good as possible. But if you spend that much time polishing paint, you're actually destroying the customer's car for them. Because paint is a very finite resource. There's not much of it on the vehicle. And the more you polish off, the more damage you're doing. So, you probably remember a saying is from a movie in the 70s, but the operation was a success. The patient died. And that was referring to surgery in the 1800s because of bacteria, because of contamination, before they figured out that washing your hands was a good thing, especially before surgery, maybe opening someone up. The operation that they would do, whatever the operation was successful. But the patient died because of bacteria, because of, other complications due to the surgery. When detailers over polish a car, that's exactly what they're doing. They're killing that car. They're killing that paint. And your customer doesn't see the difference. I've heard, you've heard it, I've heard it. A detailer saying, yeah, but if I don't do the best, it's my reputation. Or what if they take it to another detailer and he sees how bad a job I did? First of all, nobody's ever left a detailing shop to go to another detailing shop unless they've had really, really poor customer service.
Exactly.
Or, you've done a very poor job, and normally that poor job has nothing to do with the exterior, has more to do with the interior. So if they paid you to do a complete interior, or they thought they were paying you to do a complete interior, and you ended up just doing a quick vacuum and wipe down, and they still see the McDonald's French fry lodged between the console and the seat tracks when they get back in the car, then they might go to another detailer for a second opinion. But for polishing paint, nobody ever goes for a second opinion. And the detailers, again, Facebook, good, bad. The bad thing about Facebook, you'll see a post once in a while of someone saying, yeah, I had this car come in that another detailer did, and he did a hack job. Well, first of all, you don't know what the agreement was between that detailer and the customer. You don't know how much they paid, and how long has it been? If it's been a month, the customer's had ample time to screw it up again. Detailers will spend 20 hours polishing a car for the customer to take it home and run their hands over it, or drive it through the car wash, or wash it with the wool wash mitt that their grandfather gave them, and the chamois that their grandfather also gave them. And they're just scratching the car right back to before you did the polishing.
A lot of the detailers that I've met, Ivan, they don't realize that the clear coat is only the thickness of saran wrap. They don't realize it's that thin.
If you have a paint thickness gauge, most
Yeah.
paint thickness gauges come with calibration pieces inside the case. And those calibration pieces are actually more important than the gauge itself, as far as I'm concerned. I would use those calibration pieces to, first of all, educate the customer, but also to make a point. And that point was, you've got in those calibration sheets, you've got one that's normally about 100 microns thick and one that's close to 50 microns. And I would have those two with me and show the customer, look, we measured your paint, it's 110 microns. Here is what 110 microns is, and hand them that sheet. Then say, your clear coat is only 50 microns. It's half of that. And only 10 microns of that clear coat is actually what we should be working on. Once we get below that, we're damaging the paint. So you give the customer the 50 micron sheet, and like you say, it's, it's saran wrap. It's super thin. So the customer that says, well, can you remove all the scratches? I can, but you don't want me to. Because if I remove all the scratches, I'm actually destroying your paint. When you tell a customer that look, I can, if you absolutely want me to, you can sign this waiver and we'll do that. But in reality, when you educate the customer and say, and educating the customer is a weird way of looking at it, because a lot of detailers, to them, educating the customer is showing them all the swirls and all the defects on their car. And educating the customer should be the other way around. It's like, look, we can polish your car. We can make it a mirror. We can make it perfect. But what are you going to do with it tomorrow? Are you going to drive to work every day with it? Or are you going to trailer it home? If you're going to trailer it home, definitely. I'll wet sand and polish that car. I'll make it into a mirror. But if you're driving it to work tomorrow morning and next week driving it through the car wash, and then it stays outside in your driveway because you don't have a garage or you live in a condo or whatever, there's no point in me spending 8 hours polishing your car, making it perfect, because you're just going to bring it back to the point that it is right now in a very short order. And a lot of detailers don't ask that question. How are you going to maintain the vehicle after I do this? What are you going to do? And a lot of detailers, another thing that they take upon themselves is I think they feel that all the scratches that are on the car are their fault. It's not your fault. It's the customer's fault. It's the customer that screwed their car up, not you.
Yeah.
You don't have to take it upon yourself to make it perfect again.
No.
Customers want want shiny scratches.
Well, you can brighten the car. You can put protectants on it. You can do a lot of things. But you're right. You're limited to the amount of scratch removal you can do. Like with me, in the last 30 years, the biggest aspect I found of paint correction that I was asked to do was remove orange peel. And I wasn't nervous about doing it because, like, I learned from the painter. The painter taught me hands-on. He was Mark Warlock. He worked at Gus Revenberg. He's a fantastic painter. He taught me that the orange peel is actually on top of the other layers of clear. Like, that's the roughness is on the top. So as long as you stay on the roughness, you're not cutting into the actual layers. Like, as long as you're using a fine enough sheet, like we use a 2000 grit and we just lightly take out the orange peel and reduce it to the point that it's not as visible. And then I polish it from there.
Right.
But I've seen some guys cut right into the clear coat.
No, exactly. And if you look at it, it's just peaks and valleys. And if you remove the peaks, when I teach wet sanding, you sand it. I use a hard block, not a soft block. And I leave just little shiny dots everywhere, pinheads. But by doing that, I know that I actually haven't removed any paint thickness. I've just removed the high spots. I've removed the peaks, but I've left the valleys. Just the very bottom of the valley, I leave it there. Then when you polish it, it's all good again. But you actually haven't removed any thickness. And that's something that, is easy to learn. You learn from a body shop. I learned from a body shop as well. When you start working in a body shop, the first job is sweeping the floor. The second job is wet sanding.
Yeah.
Detailers think wet sanding is some black art that is so difficult to learn and dangerous and all that. In reality, if you look at the body shop industry, that's the least experienced person in the body shop, because it only takes 5 minutes to learn how to wet sand a car. There's a few basic principles. Don't, leave a few little shiny dots here and there. Don't sand the edges, and take your time, and you'll do a good job. And practice, get a scrap hood and practice, or even better, buy a car, wet sand it, polish it, make it look great, and resell it and make a bit of money while you're at it.
Yeah, when I first started, they only had 1000 grit paper.
when you bring a car to that level of perfection, everything that happens to that car shows up even more. When you don't have any, when you remove all the orange peel, and the orange actually there for a reason on a car. It's there to fool your eye. The robots that paint the cars, they can paint a car without orange peel, but they actually have specifications for the amount of orange peel. And those specs, vary from one manufacturer to another, as we know, but they're there for a reason. They're there to hide little defects and, like dust nibs and things like that. And if your car is a mirror, everything will seem to scratch it. Everything will make it worse. You need to find out from your customer, why are they wanting to have it to this level of perfection? Well, I was told by a detailer that that's what I needed to do. Told by my buddy who went to a detailer, and that's what the detailer did for him. Well, the detailer, what they did for him is actually destroy his paint.
Like I've seen cars at SEMA that were flawless, but I mean, you're right. They're rolling them on and off a trailer. They're not driving the car.
And I've also seen cars at SEMA that look like they were just off the dealership floor. They were so scratched up, and so. People think a show car. Well, I always have fun going to a car show, especially an antique car show, because what's the first thing they do? They open the trunk, they take out their California car scratcher, they go over and move the dust around on the car. Then they get out the terry towel that's been properly folded on the spare tire in the trunk for, however long they've owned the car. And usually a bottle of Meguiar's or Mother's spray detailer that they'll liberally spray on the car and rub it in with all the dust that's in the air. And as detailers, we look at those cars and go, oh my God, what are you doing? And your car looks like crap. But if you talk to those people, they'll say, oh, my paint is perfect, because they're not looking at it with a detailer's eyes. They're looking at it, it's scratched and swirled and it's got rids and everything. But to them, hey, look how shiny it is. My paint is perfect. I paid $15,000 for this paint job 18 years ago. Yeah, and you've been driving it every summer since, and you've been using that same terry towel to wipe it down at every show you go to.
One of the best tools I found for making money as far as polishing cars go is just a simple roll of masking tape. And what I do is I tear off little pieces and I go around with the customer and I tell them to point out to me what their concerns are, and then I tag everyone. I polish those areas, and then I'll do a light one step on the vehicle just to blend everything in, and that's it. And they're happy.
Exactly. You're giving them exactly what they want. You're giving them what they need, which is they want clean, shiny scratches.
Yeah.
And as detailers, once we figure out that consumers don't want a level of paint perfection that we think is necessary, our life becomes so much easier. Instead of spending 20 hours polishing a car, we spend 1 or 2 hours polishing a car. And the customer is just as happy as if we had spent 20 hours polishing the car.
But if I'm able to come down, if I get vaccinated, Ivan, that'll get me moving, and then I can do stuff.
Well, according to the government, we'll all be vaccinated by October. So hopefully sooner than that. I'm in the age bracket where it's coming up soon. Before retiring, I only worked 40 hours a week. Now that I'm retired, I work a lot more, but it's, I've always, my parents retired when they were in their early 50s as well. And one of the things that struck me and struck them was, how did we ever manage to work before we were retired? We don't have time.
Yeah.
So, and a good retiree is one that is busy. So, what I've done in my retirement is, I'm able to do more training. I'm able to do more coaching. And the coaching aspect is something that was brought on by, I've been doing coaching for years, but I've accelerated a little bit with COVID. And to help detailers out, I don't need to do it for money anymore. I do it for pleasure. I still charge, a good amount, but I charge half. When COVID came up, I started charging half of what I was charging per hour. And just to give detailers a hand, to give detailers a, look, we're here to help. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
And, it's something that is, the coaching can help them accelerate their business and stay on top. And one thing I noticed with COVID was a lot of detailers that hadn't planned for it. Nobody could have planned for COVID, but that were prepared for, bad things to happen. They've made it through COVID stronger than they were before. And, didn't have any business sense are no longer around. for some people, it's accelerated their business. For some people, it shut them down. But
Yeah.
Those that were, those that are entrepreneurs as opposed to just detailers or, hobbyists that give themselves a paycheck, it's really changed their outlook. It's changed how we were able to do things. Financially, I don't have to work, which is a nice
Yeah.
position to be in. It's just, I enjoy what I do. And I work in my whole life. I worked 1 week. The rest of the time I've been playing. And
Yeah.
that 1 week that I worked, I went into a factory to work, and it actually seemed like work. Everything else I've done in my career, the businesses I've owned, the companies I've worked with, it hasn't been work for me. And the day that it becomes work is the day that I move on. And whether that be a business, whether that be working for another corporation, the day that it felt like I was working was the day that I resigned, or was the day that I quit, or, whatever, or told them, look, things have to change and this is how they're going to change. But with that being said, if you go through your life not actually working, but enjoying what you're doing, it makes life so much better. It makes life so much easier.
Well, I love my father, but my father never understood why I detail cars. And then I said to him, I said, well, Pop, I said, if you were getting paid to play golf, would you do it? Well, of course. I said, well, I'm playing golf every day. I said, this is what I love to do. This is my golf game, is being there, cleaning somebody's car and making somebody smile.
Yeah. And, as detailers, we do that.
Yeah. Well, that's the coolest thing, Ivan, is like when I go and I clean somebody's car and they're just overjoyed, it makes me feel fantastic. I mean, that's that's the best medicine in the world.
Oh, definitely. Because we've contributed to someone's happiness. We've made them a happier person. We've given them something that nobody else could give them. And that is the satisfaction of, hey, I've got a clean car. I like this. So,
well, it was funny because when I first made the Detailers Guild group, I was just trying to bring people together, and I couldn't believe how many people came together all at once.
Yes.
There was within 6 months we had 2,000 people in the group. Now we have 2,300, but they're filtering little by little, but they're all quality people that are in there with a positive attitude.
Exactly. Yep.
And it's amazing because now, like when Andrew decided to walk away from his job and become a full-time detailer, he wasn't scared because he knew he had 2,200 friends out there to help him.
Exactly. Yep.
That's why I'm thankful, Ivan, that you're out there helping people every day, and that there's so many other people that are taking time out of their day to help everybody. I just want to put this out there. If anybody out there has been helped by Ivan in any way, watching his videos, attending his classes, just remember to send him a thank you once in a while, or just drop him a message, because it means a lot. And when you hear that you've changed somebody's life, it means a lot. That gives us the energy to keep going and help other people.
Exactly. It's always nice to get that text message, or always nice to get that little little phone call saying, hey, with what I learned in your class or whatever, I've been able to do this. And it's always a nice feeling. That's why we teach.
If anybody's looking to reach out to you, where do they go on the internet? What's the easiest way?
They can go on Instagram, they can go on Facebook, they can go on YouTube. On Instagram and Facebook, it's Yvan Lacroix, so that's YVAN, and the last name is LACROIX. Type that in, you'll find me. And on YouTube, it's the Detailers Business Academy with Yvan Lacroix. Okay. And but just look for Detailers Business Academy. A little bit of a play on words, DBA, doing business as. But just look for me there. And on YouTube, it's 1 or 2 videos a week. Whenever I feel inspired, I sit down and talk to my camera for 10 minutes and put out a video.
Thank you very much, Ivan. It was a pleasure having you on, and I always learn something when I talk to you.
Very good, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.